Welcome, one and all, to the Side Hustle Sport podcast, and it's for episode 2. Episode 1 went really well. I really enjoyed making it, and hopefully people enjoyed listening to it. It was about korfball, and if you are a fan of that sport, you have a chance of being a fan of the sport that we're going to be talking about today, because it is yet another mixed gender sport. It's tag rugby, specifically talking about Try Tag Rugby, because I do an interview with Alistair Davis a little later on about what was the fastest growing social sport in the UK. There's an argument to say that paddle may have taken over that, but we'll bypass paddle, okay? They're inferior for the time being for this podcast. We're going to focus on tag rugby. But before we do, we're going to get a little bit more of an explanation about what tag rugby is all about. So if you are a tag rugby aficionado, you probably know more than me. Therefore, you can probably skip the next 10 minutes and go and listen to Alistair Davis. I won't blame you, because it's just me prattling on about the basics of tag rugby. But I am also going to sort of reel off the reasons why I think it is one of the best sports that you can get involved in, and that anybody can actually get involved in it. But first of all, what is it? Well, on the bare bones of tag rugby, it is a non-contact, mixed-gender version of rugby league. If you're a rugby union fan or a rugby union player, you won't hate tag rugby by any means. Don't let the rugby league comparison, because I know people get very tribal about it, put you off. But it is basically rugby league, and the fact that you have 6 tackles, and I'll explain how the tackles work in a minute, and then the ball gets turned over. If you are a fan of rugby, you probably know how it works. But if you are just going into this fresh, maybe you're a korfball person, maybe you've just found this podcast, I'll explain it to you a little bit better. In tag rugby, you may well have played it in primary school, and if so, the teacher may well have given you some belts with 2 bits of Velcro on either side by your hips, and then put some tags on it, and you play by pulling the tags off and trying to get the ball to the other end. Well, it's very similar now at Try Tag Rugby, apart from the fact you have shorts with the Velcro sewn into the hips. That means you have to buy, or borrow, to be fair, the shorts off Try Tag Rugby. And if you are new to the sport and you haven't got any of the shorts, you can turn up on the day, after obviously emailing ahead potentially, and borrow some. There are some higher shorts. They are bright blue and pink. You will stand out a mile. But they are like having learner plates on your car sort of thing. So people do go slightly easier on you. And they help explain the rules to you as well, because everybody's very friendly on these days. However, it's typically 7 aside. And I say typically because there is chance where it might be 6 aside. For instance, I play on a Thursday in Leeds. And now we're going into winter. Our pitch has gotten a lot smaller. Therefore, it can only fit 6 aside on it, really. And therefore, you have to have 2 women minimum on a 6 aside pitch. And then you can have 4 guys. Or you can have a full complement of 6 women. On a 7 aside pitch, it's 3 women and 4 guys. And as I said, you can have an unlimited amount of women. But the minimum is 3. And I'll explain a little bit more about how the teams work in a second. The size of the pitch, I mentioned, ours is slightly smaller on a Thursday evening now. While traditionally, the length of a tag rugby pitch is roughly the width of a normal rugby pitch. So we sort of run from one out to the other out, and that's our try lines. It's hard to make sense. I'll maybe put a photo of it up on the screen. If you're listening to this only, I don't know, use your imagination. It's quick, it's fast, balances competitiveness and fun really, really well, in my opinion. There are people that go and play for Yorkshire and then to GB, and they're playing in World Champs, and they're playing against Ireland and Australia and people like that. But realistically, there are also the majority of people like me who use it as an excuse to run around for 40 minutes and then go to the pub for a pint afterwards. And in my opinion, it's a great sport for that, because a lot of people turn up who, after uni, spend a couple of years getting into a job, and then you just realise that all you're doing is that job. This isn't necessarily my experience, because I'm very fortunate in my job, but you get into this sort of loop of not really seeing anybody out of the office, and then tag rugby is a really good way of sort of meeting people who are very friendly, who realistically just want to have a bit of exercise as an excuse, so when they have the pint afterwards, they don't feel as bad. And it's very social and it's very cool. And I'll get onto that a little bit more later on. The basic rules of how the game works, well, it's 2 halves, 20 minutes each, not normally. I'm going to use the sort of normal, most used method, which is 40 minutes 7-a-side mixed gender as the sort of example here, but there are plenty of different iterations of tag rugby, and they're always adding more, and there's juniors will have different rules and stuff like that, but we're just going to use the normal one that everybody sort of plays week in, week out. In the attack, the ball must be passed backwards, just like normal rugby, and in defence, instead of a physical tackle, you can probably guess, you just have to pull a tag off. If you pass the ball at the same time as a tag gets taken, the referee might call simultaneous and you get to carry on with the ball. A bit like having an advantage, I suppose. But realistically, pull the tag off. If someone's got the ball, you're going to make a tackle, effectively. That doesn't mean you get the ball back, because if they do that, they have 6 opportunities to be tackled, and then the ball gets turned over. So they call fifth and last, and somebody kicks the ball all the way as far as they can, a bit like in real rugby league, and you try and get it out of play, or you just try and kick it as far as you can, close them down, and then trap them in their last 10 metres before their try line. Unless you've got a teammate like I do in Joe, in the fact that they'll just call second tag, and he'll just kick it regardless, because he fancies it. And to be fair, actually, he's gotten better at it, so I can't really blame you, Joe. I love you. But yeah, a lot of people do tend to do that. It's really sort of freeing. You don't really have structured training. You turn up every week and you play games. So I play on a Thursday. We don't train. We just turn up and play. So as I mentioned, you can take it as competitively as you like, but realistically, you don't have to feel the pressure. It's really nice like that. It's no big collisions. Collisions do happen. It's sport. You are still running through a defence. People should be leaving you a gap, but sometimes mistakes happen. You trip over or whatever. But there is a lower injury risk than normal rugby and a lot of other sort of contact games. You also don't need to have a rugby background. That's one of the biggest reasons why this sport works, along with the strong community culture. The leagues, as I mentioned, you don't really have to train. You just turn up, and everything's about games, which means that's where a lot of sports, a lot of niche sports, lose a lot of people, in my opinion, is the fact that you could make them train for 2 months before they even play a game, and it can be really detrimental to you sort of lose their enthusiasm. Tag rugby doesn't really have that issue, because you do turn up and you do instantly play. It's fantastic. And scoring, I forgot to mention scoring. A man can score 1 point, a woman can score 2. So there's a lot of questions about the equality of that scoring system. This is not what the podcast is about, so I'm not going to get into it. But effectively, if you have a full team of women, which is perfectly legal, perfectly fine, against a mixed team, then they could score 4 tries, but it counts for 8 points. Whereas, say, me personally, I could score 4 tries and it scores for 4 points. So it makes it a much more of a tactical battle in terms of how you get different players into different positions through the game, which I think is really, really interesting as well. There are various other iterations. It's not just the mixed gender one. You can have an all-women's team. You can have an all-men's team, but they are much less common, and I think pretty much only represented in the sort of national stuff. So Yorkshire Nationals and GB and stuff like that. You don't see them in traditional day-to-day, week-in, week-out sort of competitions. And then you have over 35s, I think the Yorkshire over 35, so the county levels. And then you have, I think, seniors over 60s or something like that. And then they're bringing in juniors as well. So there's loads of different categories. If you can run, brilliant. You can play tag rugby. That's effectively it. And there also, obviously, there's lots of other iterations. And if you're struggling to know the rules or anything like that, people really do help out. They're fantastic with that. The structure, finally. Tag Rugby is a franchise. So they started in London. Alistair Davis goes into this, but they started in London. They came up to Leeds, and they're the two sort of ran by Try Tag Rugby. Every other one is actually franchised out. So somebody can go who's in Carlisle, let's say, and the person who lives in Carlisle thinks, oh, Tag Rugby would be cool. I want to bring that over here. And you can go to Tag Rugby and you can buy the license, and they'll give them all the training. There's quite a strict interview process, apparently, and stuff like that. Make sure you're the right fit and you represent the company well. But they'll give you all the training, they'll give you all the assets that you need to start a league in Carlisle, and then that person can go off and recruit people and advertise it how they see fit. And there's obviously a business benefit to them. There's a financial benefit if they do well enough in terms of, yes, okay, they might have to pay some of it back, a percentage of it back to Try Tag Rugby, but they're as successful as they are, the more money they earn. And therefore, the bigger the community can grow. So it is really interesting. From a business perspective, I find it quite cool. It's a lot like Subway or Domino's or anything like that. There's loads of fast food examples. Not quite as common in sports, which is why I personally think it's very interesting. So, to talk more about that, to talk more about the early iterations of tag rugby, how it came across to the UK, how it was set up, and the future of the game, I'm going to chat to Alistair Davis. I have already spoken to him. We did this interview a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago, but we're just going to introduce it now, and then you'll see me back during the interview, granted, but back after the interview to wrap up the show. So I hope you've enjoyed the bare basics of Try Tag Rugby, and now enjoy the interview with Alistair Davis, which I won't lie is far more interesting. Enjoy. So I've probably mentioned his name 1,000 times in the link-ups. To be honest, I haven't recorded them yet. But a big thank you to Alistair Davis from Try Tag Rugby, who has come down virtually and having a chat with us. And it's all about where Tag Rugby came from and where it's going. And Alistair, a big thank you to yourself. I mentioned you were one of the founders just then of Try Tag Rugby. Give us a bit of a quick breakdown of your role in it currently, how you came up with the idea, and a bit of you really more than anything.
Yeah, no worries, Jack. Pleasure to come on. So I'm one of the co-founders of Try Tag Rugby. So we started back in 2009, but to give you the full story, how it sort of came about. So you may have guessed already from the 20 seconds I've been speaking, I'm not from the UK, so. Still got a bit of an Australian accent. So I hail from the Sutherland Shire in Sydney. So if anyone follows the RL, there where the Cronulla Sharks come from. Grew up just playing a lot of sport, loving the sport. Went off to uni and all that, and probably would have loved to have done something in sport, but just didn't know quite what I wanted to do. And anyway, was studying away, and there was a sport being played in the local area, which called Oztag, which was invented by a fella called Perry Haddock, who played rugby league for both St George and I think briefly finished at Cronulla as well. And he was coaching the St George Jersey Flegg under-20s team, and he basically brought in tags, and I think it was belts at that stage, and used it as a training drill for his under-20 St George team. And so he was the coach, I think 92. I think he might have been a maths teacher or something at that stage. But he, off the back of that, he's like, let's turn this into a sport. So they started Oztag in, I think, around 93, and it was basically in my local area. But it was one of those sports that I'd drive past it, I'd see it. I never really knew how to get involved. Never got involved. So it was going for probably about, 10 years. And then one of my mates said, let's form a team. And I was like, okay, brilliant. I'll give that a go. I love my rugby league. I should be able to play. So we played for a couple of years in a team. I think the team was called the Bar, which was named after our high school, which was Carring Bar. And after a couple of years, the team fell apart. 2 people moved away, a couple of injuries, that type of stuff. Didn't think much about it anymore. Didn't play again. But around 2007, I decided I wanted to sort of see a bit more of the world. So we're traveling to backpacked around South America, the Caribbean, went to the Cricket World Cup, which was great. Ended up over in the UK because I wanted to give the whole sort of work in the UK thing a go. My dad's English, so it was pretty easy to come over on a passport.
So I don't know why you would want to do that. Most people go the other way these days, but you do you.
Look, I mean, Australia's an amazing place, brilliant for outdoors and things. But we're a long way from places, so it's nice to get out and see some different parts of the world. And being based in London in particular is great for sort of trips down to Europe and the like. So, but anyway, worked in the UK for a couple of years and started watching a bit of rugby league and went to meet another guy that I'd met called Ian Howe. We started going and watching London Scholars Rugby League Club, and they're only a very, very small. They were semi-pro team back then, and we started speaking to them and said, well, what can we do to help you guys out to sort of raise a bit of money for the club? And so we thought, maybe we could do some touch or tag as because it's massive in Australia. Yeah, it was Australian as well, and we decided on tag because touch was already played, and I was like, great, I know tag. I've played it for a couple of years. Yeah, pretty sure I could referee it if I had to. And so we started doing that for a bit of fun. And so we did the first year, we had a men's comp. It's up in Finsbury Park in North London. So we had 4 teams, took part in that, all men's. And that ran for the summer. It was good fun, but again, came down to year, didn't think much of it. And then the next year, I asked Ian, I said, do you want to give this a go again? He said, no, he was too busy. But I started speaking to the club anyway, and I spoke to a couple of different people, and they said, yeah, sounds great. I'll get back to you. They never got back to me. And then my last chance, I sort of reached out to them. They had a new CEO came in, a fellow by the name of Phil Brown. And I spoke to Phil, and he's like, yep, great. He just come over from Australia as well. to take that job. He said, this sounds great, and he followed up on it. And in the end, we ran again that summer in Finchley Park, but we changed it from men's to mixed. So it was a much more sort of social feel. We got 8 teams playing that summer, so we were quite impressed. So we had a lot of people travelling for an hour across London to come and play. A lot of Aussies, a lot of Kiwis, a lot of Irish, because Tag's really big in Ireland. So, and then we're sort of chatting throughout the year, and there was another guy who was helping us out called Stuart Harvey, and we started chatting a bit more about it, and Phil wasn't really particularly enjoying the job at London Scholars. And Stuart came to us and he said, look, you guys we could do this full time. Like, there's enough interest here. We could turn this into something. So, so off the back of that, we formed Try Tag Rugby in September 2009. And in the end, it was just myself and Phil who co-founded it. And Phil was full time from the start, and I was part time for sort of the first 6 months. And we made a bad assumption straight away. We're like, we should be able to find venues in September, and then we realised that the UK's got a shortage of decent floodlit pitches, and where they are, they're all booked up. So
especially in London.
Especially London. We started at Finchley Park Athletic Stadium, and we ran our first season there, and I think I can't remember how many teams we had, but it might have been 8 or 10 or something. But and then we started the second season going into the winter, and of course the October, November rains came, and Finchley Park Athletic Stadium is about 5 metres below a lake. So you can imagine how that went. And then week 2 into our first ever winter season, where sorry guys, I think the season's going to be cancelled, and we had to refund all the teams. So fun and games, and then we didn't do anything for the next couple of months until we finally found a couple of all-weather pitches in sort of February to get things going a bit more.
It's one of the most difficult things, isn't it? Because I do a lot of handball and stuff like that, and the shortage. I mean, all-weather pitches are becoming a lot more common now in the UK as well. But like sports halls, pitches, anything like that, it's the hardest thing about trying to start anything to do with sport, whether it's a community club or a private enterprise, isn't it? It's a real stumbling block because they are so expensive as well. Yeah,
expensive. And look, the time slot, I mean, what we essentially do is it's a social sport. You want to play it after work, sort of between 7 and 9 o'clock, and these are the times that these pitches are used. If you want to book one on a Friday night or a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon, it's much easier. But so what we do sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there's a lot of demand. I mean, in football, look at just how big football is in this country, particularly 5-a-side football. So and they can play their game in a tiny space with more people on the pitch than we can. So it's tricky.
It must be relatively scary, though, as a sort of new enterprise. I've done a fair few of these sort of things before and done sports tournaments and everything in handball and started those kind of businesses. And it is scary at the start when you have a problem like having to refund everybody their money because you realise you can't do it at the venue you want to do anymore. When did you start realising it was taking off? And did that really put a bit of a fright in you and your business partners to maybe just stop it altogether because you think, well, we cannot do this during the winter, it's not feasible, but the interest stayed there?
I don't think we ever sort of considered calling it a day at that stage. I think, as I say, it was probably a bad assumption, which I think a lot of people have in business plans. All the assumptions, best sort of will of the world, they've got good assumptions, and then some of them don't turn out. But I think, we battled through that first year. Phil was full-time. I still had my day job at Transport for London, so I was effectively sort of helping Phil survive. And then in about February, I said I wasn't doing Eva justice. I wasn't probably giving my day enough attention, and I certainly didn't have enough time to really move Try Tag Rugby forward. So I made a call to resign there and go full time with Try Tag Rugby, which was definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made because it allowed us to really put a lot of effort in sort of February, March, April ahead of launching our sort of first early summer leagues in about half a dozen parks across London. So it allowed us to go a lot harder than what we would have, and then we ended up getting about 40 teams playing in that first summer. It's like a lot of the sort of the major parks, some of which we still use to this day, like Southwark Park, for example.
So it took off very quickly.
Yeah, it took off very quickly, and I think there was certainly showed there was demand for it, but it wasn't just people who were missing tag. It was we were tapping into people who were just looking for something to do. They want to meet. Well, we very much, I think what's sort of unique about what we do is we sort of came with this Australian attitude of, look, the sport needs to be serious. It's a proper sport at the end of the day, but also throwing in there was a sort of I guess we were all exiles. We're all living in a city that we didn't know that many people. So let's make sure there's a really big sort of community around it. It's a great way to meet people, go and have a few drinks after playing, that type of stuff, and even socialise outside of the leagues as well.
Yeah, because I think that's what drew me in. I played. I started in 2018. I'm going to say just before COVID, and I was I came along supporting someone else when they needed a player every so often, sort of the ring as we call it, and obviously in tag rugby. Yeah. And I didn't really sign up. I think I signed up for 2 seasons or something like that. Then stopped in COVID and everything like that. And then I got to a point in my life where I sort of realised all my friends had moved away. Everybody that I sort of knew had moved away in Leeds, and I was like, how do you socialise again? And I think for me, I was like, well, I used to play that sport. I'm very into sport. I joined about 2 or 3 other ones. One of them was korfball, also a mixed gender sport, which I think is really important, and I'll get onto that in a second. But tag rugby, I was like, well, I remember tag rugby. It's a good game, but it's simple. You just turn up in the park, and it's all organised for you, and away you go. And where we play, there's a pub right next door as well. Yeah. And I have to say, everybody who joined my team, because our team was formed the season I joined, had exactly the same ethos as well. And it was brilliant. So there really is a market, and it's one of the things that makes tag rugby so special, isn't it? Did you see that early on? Yeah,
absolutely, 100%. And I honestly say I wish I had found something similar when I first moved over. It doesn't necessarily have to be in tag rugby. I would have happily played any sport. But, I mean, I think when I first moved to London, I had a couple of good school friends here, which was great. I had a few friends that I knew through travel. I had my sort of work crew. I was lucky my work was quite social with a lot of sort of younger people on a graduate scheme. But, when I look back on it now, I go, something was missing. I wish I'd gone and played some sport as someone who, I did play a bit of five-side football, like with the office and stuff like that. But it was more, I wish I'd gone and done something out, which is silly considering how much I love sport. And so undoubtedly, that's what we found. And we very quickly we were doing stuff like tours. So I mentioned before, like tag is massive in Ireland. So that started in Ireland about 9 years before us. There was a fellow called Simon Bewley who was travelling average in Australia, and hit the night before he was about to fly home. A mate of his said, you've got to see this sport. It's amazing. And Simon, I think, was working for the Irish Rugby Union, so he was in a position to be able to take that back to them and say, look, here's a great sport you guys can launch. So I say tag took off in Ireland in the sort of the early 2000s, and sort of around the sort of, particularly in the sort of corporate sector and stuff like that. So there is a ton of tournaments you can go to over in Ireland. So we were getting teams together and saying, right, who wants to go away to Ireland for the weekend to play in this tournament? And you get 20 or 30 people and obviously have an amazing time. Get there Friday night, play all day Saturday, drink till about 3 a.m, go out dancing on a Saturday night. Everyone comes back, best mates, and goes, well, when can we do it all again? Type stuff. So this is the type of sort of extra offerings we're sort of offering around the community, as well as play your tag. We'll put you in a team, meet people in your team, but then you'll socialise together after the games in the pub. And
is that what sort of sparks off tag fests? Like that sort of idea that you wanted people to come from around the country and other countries, and you wanted to host it yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've basically taken what goes on in Ireland. Seven. I mean, it's very similar to what Rugby Sevens do with all their festivals around the country. But we wanted to offer something a little bit different as well, other than just the weeknight leagues where you can come and play all day. And I mean, I think
it's brilliant
as a player as well. Like, there's no better feeling than playing all day and having your team go on a run at the end of the day and have a few wins, and then coming off the pitch going, knowing you've given it your all, and going, right now I can have a few drinks with these people that I've just given it all with on the pitch as well. So it's that's one of the reasons we certainly did it. Because
I was going to say, because the Leeds Fest, Tagfest
Leeds.
I think it was Tagfest Yorkshire, I think it's called technically, or Tagfest Leeds, or whatever it's called now.
Leeds, it used to be Tagfest Yorkshire, but now we've got...
I knew there was a bit of a mix-up in there, but that's just been and gone. I played it, and because it's just up the road. And I have to say, it was brilliant. It was a great day, and it was one of the reasons why I thought, I need Tag Rugby on the podcast sort of thing, because it is something that makes it special. We mentioned Tagfest then. There's plenty of other things, though. Tag Rugby has boomed. You're on the board for the international committee, I think you mentioned. What's the current landscape? Because, if somebody wanted to get involved and look for a team or start a league, why isn't there a league in, say Carlisle or something like that. I don't know if there is a league in Carlisle. I'm just making that up. What sort of, how can there be a league? What's the plan for you?
Yeah.
And then also, where can players in that, if they really want to take it seriously, where can they go?
Yeah, okay. There's a lot in there.
There is a lot in there.
Unpack it slightly. So, I suppose in terms of, so obviously we started in London, which is what I've mentioned, and then one of our first employees was a fellow called Carl Duckles, who joined us in the second year. Actually, I think he played in my league in the first year, and one of the best employee signings I've ever made, if not the best. But anyway, he worked for us for a few years in London, and he was originally from Leeds, and he got married, I think, in 2014, and we were speaking to him about, can you take this from Leeds? Would you ever want to move back? Would you want to set it up there? And eventually, with a little bit of arm twisting, he agreed to take on starting Try Tag Rugby in West Yorkshire. So that's how West Yorkshire came about, 2015. But where I'm going with this is, part of that was we always thought the best way to expand was through a franchise model. So OzTag in Australia, they've now got something like 200,000 players across both adults and juniors. And they grew through a franchise model, which is basically providing a sort of business model to someone who buys the franchise. We provide all the sort of the branding, all the instructions, how to run it, and they go away and deliver it. So we were like, right, West Yorkshire needs to sort of prove the concept. And then once we've done that, 2018 we launched our franchise model, and we've now got sort of 9 franchises across the country. So basically, what we need to be able to expand to a new area is to find a great person on the ground who's up for coming on board as a franchisee. So I suppose the copy we're looking for, you've got to have a bit of time, basically. You can't be doing it if you're working 40, 50 hours a week, because it's effectively a side hustle. To be able to...
It's amazing, isn't it?
No, it's like the name of having a podcast. Should be a franchising podcast. But essentially it's a side hustle for people who've got a bit of time to be able to do it. And we make it as easy for them as possible. We give them all the support they can do. You don't have to run a business before. We've helped out with all that. You've got to have a bit of a passion for sport. Don't have to necessarily have a passion for rugby, but a passion for sport and people, being around people. And also, like, as you would have seen for being in the community, it's very rewarding work. Like, you're bringing people together. You're giving them fun. You're giving them friendship. You're improving their fitness, their mental health. Like, you are making a difference to people's lives, and
you are really connecting as well. I mean, the franchisee, I think, probably of Leeds and stuff, they know everybody's name. All the competition managers, Lewis, Bobby, they know everybody's name who was at Tag Fest the other day, and there was easily about 30 teams or something ridiculous. So you do make that connection. You see it, don't you?
That's great to hear. And that actually came from very early days. Like, one of the things we said to our staff from the start was, know everyone's name in the league. So you can which is obviously easier when you've got 4 teams as opposed to a 24-team league. But it's certainly is good to hear from about Bobby and Lewis. So I mean, that's our sort of route to expansion, is the franchise. So whilst we're out in a lot of places now, I mean, the most recent places we've moved to are sort of launched in sort of Salford, York, Edinburgh, South Yorkshire. We just franchised, it was ours. Before that, we've got Brighton, we've got Bristol, we're in the Thames Valley, Oxford, Reading, Coventry. Hopefully I've not forgotten anywhere. Wigan. There's quite a few. Newcastle, not forget Newcastle, they're flying. But there's a number of parts of the UK that we're still keen to get to. So we're not in Glasgow, we're not in Birmingham, we're not in Cardiff, we're not in Cambridge. So there's a number of places we are actively looking for to recruit. And
then you also can form. And there's, for me, I know I haven't ever trialled for anything. I wouldn't get anywhere near it. But the Yorkshire team, you have the Nationals as well. You have these sort of bigger competitions. You have Tag Fest, which are the fun sort of things, aren't they? They're fun events that anybody can go and join. And then you've got it's not the elitist, but you've got the slightly more, the competitive edge to it, don't you now? Which is obviously these national finals. So I know Yorkshire go, London win, all the time. But the other parts of the country, you come together and it's like a tag fest, but it is actually competitive, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, I think that was one of the things we realised very, very early on was that for most people, we're offering a social sport. It's a way to get into sport or get back into sport for people that used to play who don't anymore, and to meet people and have a run around for 40 minutes during the week and go for a drink after.
Yeah.
Very few of our teams, our sort of club social teams, train. I know some do, but it's probably in the 5-10% max of those teams actually do any training. But with any sport, there's always those who want to push themselves, who want to learn more. They want to be the best they can, and they want to compete. And we're in this sort of interesting position where we are the de facto governing body for tag in the UK, because we've brought a new sport to this country. So as part of that, we always thought, well, once we get to a scale where we have enough different regions playing, we want to offer some sort of nationals competition, because again, Oztag do in Australia, which is very successful. Now, when we were smaller, we did other sort of what we used to call sort of representative events like North London versus South London and stuff like this. But once we got to a scale where we had, I think we launched Bristol and Coventry in 2018, and then shortly after we were able to, I think we did our first nationals in 2019. And essentially what it is all different regions coming together with mixed open, men's open, women's open, now on men's 37s and women's 35s, I think exact categories now, and they compete against each other. So this just offers, and it's always a chance for the players to be in that more sort of club team environment where you're training. You could do some training sessions, you can get better, you'll have a coach, you'll have a team manager, you'll train, you'll get better, and then you get to go to a couple of tournaments, you get to go to a regionals tournament, and then if selected, then you go on to nationals, which is, and the players love it. Like the ones who are more into the competitive side can't get enough of the national side of things. And then, of course, off the back of that, we've got Great Britain teams, which I was watching on the weekend, which is...
It's amazing, isn't it? Because you can, as you mentioned, it's sort of this social sport, but it does have real sort of legs if people do want to go and represent. They can do, can't they? So what is the sort of very quickly, because sort of we try and focus on the sort of the more sort of nitty gritty, what most people can actually access. But for the few that can access, or the few that people maybe want to see where the ambition can take them, what do GB go and compete in? What is the end game?
So I was supposed to give you the backstory there. So we were like, well, I think around 2011 we were like, well, okay, we're now running tag in the UK, and we've been talking to Oztag in Australia, and they're like, well, we'd love to play against you guys, and we're like, okay, sure, if you want to bring some teams over. So Oztag come over, brought some Australian teams over in 2011, and I think we put out mixed open, men's open, and a men's 30s. And you can probably imagine how that went. And we had maybe a couple of thousand players max, and they were picking probably from about 150,000 or something at that point. So I think I played in the men's 30s. I've had a run in that, and the only game we got close to them was when it absolutely poured with rain the whole game, and they were struggling to score about 6-0 or something that one. But most of them were like 16-0, 18-0. But anyway,
sounds like my Tagfest performance.
Yeah. So it was good fun. There was a golf in town, but it was worth doing, because our players got a great kick out of it, and the ones who again were at the top end saw, okay, well, what's possible? There's these amazing players who got this amazing skill, and they play with all these set plays and defend brilliantly, and they're like, okay, this is the level we can get to. So then off the back of that, there was a World Cup in Auckland in 2012. So we said, okay, could we send some teams out to that? And at that stage, Ireland wasn't playing internationally as well. So we thought, why can't we just we'll do a British and Ireland team. So we sort of sent a combined British and Irish team, which was, I don't think there was any Irish players from Ireland in that, but there were a few of our Irish players went forward, and we sent, I think, 2 teams over to the World Cup. Anyway, off the back of that, we started speaking to Ireland and said, guys, come on board. Like, Lions and International, there's this sort of international federation, which is pretty much starting to form here. Do you guys want to get involved? We'll play against you each year. And we started, I think, the British Irish Cup in 2013, which has now become a massive thing. And I can't remember how many categories we started with. It wouldn't have been more than maybe 2, maybe 3 the first year. But we've built it up to now on the weekend. We played Ireland in 11 different categories. And Ireland has traditionally dominated us just because they've been going longer. Basically, they've been playing from 2000 and had probably in the early days would have more players than we had to pick from and a lot more tag experience under their belts. But we've now won, I think, 3 in a row. So we won on the weekend. There was a convoluted scoring system, but we won by 17.5 points to 7.5, which equated to 7 categories out of 11, basically. We won 7 categories.
Right, okay.
It was a draw. Some categories were worth more than others, but we won 7, there was a draw, and we lost 3. So we're now, I'd say, comprehensively ahead of the Irish. And building for the Tag World Cup. So the Tag World Cup next year is in Coffs Harbour in Australia. So we're going to hopefully send close to all of those 11 teams out there. We'll see.
So what do you see the future of tag rugby being in 5 years' time then? Do you see us long term catching up with the Aussies? Or then also that might be a bit of a pipe dream, or you might think is realistic. But what else? What do you see tag rugby in 5 years' time? Do you hope that franchises pop up X, Y, Z? Do you have targets? What's the plan?
Yeah, so we've got a 10-year goal. So we're hoping to have 40,000 players. 40,000 players playing playing regularly, playing weekly in 10 years. It's ambitious, although one of my staff told me it wasn't ambitious enough. So
I like that.
I mean, you put into context, we've got probably around 9,000 playing weekly on average at the moment. I think it peaked at about sort of 11,000 in the summer. So there's a lot of work to be done. But yeah, if we can get things in place to continue the growth around the country, continue the existing leagues, improve them, have more advocates, basically bring more new players into those leagues, and plus add some additional franchises around the country, then that will get us halfway there. But the big difference between what we do and what Australia does at the moment is juniors. So that's on the radar for the sort of the more midterm of those 10 years to be able to get something going in the junior sphere. We've got at the moment we've got a pilot that's been ongoing in Brighton for a bit over a year now. With our licensee down there, Steph, is running that. So ultimately, we want to be in a position where we can repeat what we've done for adults, but do it for juniors around the country.
It's interesting, really. I don't mean to interrupt you there. For the juniors side, though, and I haven't got this on my notes, but this is what conversations are for, aren't they? For the juniors side, most people, or a lot of people that I have played with or have come in, and you sort of go, they join your team or something like that, and you sort of go, okay, have you ever played rugby before, or do you watch it? And they sort of go, I think we played something like this in primary school or something like that. And obviously that was 20 years ago for them or something. And it's a bit strange that it doesn't carry on, doesn't it, really? Is that what you're trying to trying to replace, basically? Not replace, but push on with?
No, definitely. I mean, I think it's a tough, well, what we've found so far is it's quite a tough market. There is a lot of tag for kids. It's very much being pushed by both the RFU and the RFL.
Yeah, of course.
It's a very competitive environment, but it's very much seen as a development tool. And when you get to sort of 10, 12, you're supposed to go off into contact. So, like, for instance, tag in London in primary schools is massive. There's a really established scene. There's some competitions like the London Youth Games, but very little once they go off to high schools. Yeah. So it's sort of dropping. It's dropping off there. So yeah, there's definitely an opportunity, but it's a massive task to be able to build something in that sphere. So it's going to be a real challenge.
Is that why you found it slightly easier to grow the older categories? Because as you mentioned, there's the mixed one, there's the men's, there's the women's only, and then there's now over 35s, over 45s, and everything like that. Because the non-contact nature of it does mean that maybe the older generation prefer it to the younger generation. Do you see that as a sway? Yeah,
I mean, the older players continue playing in our regular leagues, and now we've offered it as an opportunity at the sort of the representative scene for nationals for those players to come together. We have flirted with some regular leagues for older players, but haven't quite been able to crack it with the numbers. It's a different challenge. I've had a run around myself in our Vets League, we called it last summer, and I managed to do my calf for about the 7th time in week 5, which led to another retirement for me. I still remember running it. I ran a taster session for that as well, which was quite funny. We had a couple of blokes down there in their 60s. It was incredible.
really?
Like, they were moving so well for guys in their 60s, and they had a great time. They were throwing themselves around, diving for tags. Anyway, then off the back of that, I messaged a few of them the next day and said, "Well, we've got this Vets League starting next week. You're going to sign up." And both of them were like, "Had an amazing time, but my God, I've just destroyed myself. I cannot do this."
What about walking tag rugby? Is that not something like walking football? Is that not something that you could really utilise?
Yeah, and never say never. But I mean, we've got to be, if we're to get to this 40,000 player goal in 10 years, we've got to be focused on our core. Like, so until we're delivering, we've ticked off all our goals in that sphere. We don't want to get too distracted in other areas. It's bring it to the people of Glasgow, Cardiff, Birmingham, Cambridge. We'll get that one ticked off, and then we'll see what the next goal is after that.
I'm excited to hear about that. So 40,000 players, you've got about 30,000 to go, let's say. For anybody out there who's watching or recommending it to other people, how do they get involved? God, this is the time to plug. How do they get into the funnel?
So I mean, I suppose there's a number of ways to get involved. For most people, it's going to be just want to play. Look, if you want to play, brilliant. A couple of ways you can get involved. Sign up as an individual. We'll place you in a team, which is how a lot of players get involved. And alternatively, if you've got a group of friends, could be friends you haven't seen for a while from school or uni, you want to meet together with regularly, or workmates, you can start a whole team and put it together. So that's basically the two ways to get involved. Taking a slight step back, if you're not sure if it's for you, free tasters. We run a ton of free tasters throughout the year, more so probably in the spring and summer in the parks, but there's always a way. All our regions should always have a couple of free tasters open for registration, so you can sign up for that. And it's not just come down and try it. It's basically an organised session with a bunch of other newbies with some basic coaching involved, so we can give you the basics, we'll teach you the basic rules, and then we get you playing, because that's the best way to learn. So, again, a lot of our players come through the free taster route, particularly women. It's very popular with women who are less likely generally to have played rugby, although that's definitely changing in the last few years. But then the other side of things, I was talking about the expansion of what we want to do. So we're out there looking for great people, basically, who want to. We're looking for a side hustle in in these places where we don't exist yet, where we haven't run any operations. So quite often, a lot of our franchisees are former players who played somewhere and ended up moving somewhere where there wasn't any tag going on, and then have come to us and gone, you know what, I missed this, or my city's got a hole in the market for this. Like at least two of our franchisees moved to cities, and they were like looking for something. Like they'd played in 2 or 3 of our leagues elsewhere, and they're looking for something, and they went down to touch, for example, which is very similar sport, but different. Touch is a lot more established in the UK. They both said it was so serious and competitive and non-social that they just didn't enjoy it, and they were like, why is no one doing tag in this city yet? So they approached us, and off the back of that, it's a serious process. We have a conversation with the person, and we make sure the opportunity is right for them and us. So we're not just going to take anyone. We need to make sure you've got the right values, you've got enough time, you're a real sort of got to get up and go about you, because you've basically got to get out and do the promotion and find the people and sort of be a people person as well. So for the right person who sort of wants to make a bit of a difference, it's a nice little opportunity. You can do it alongside your day job. And look, if it goes really well, then there's an opportunity to make it your full-time gig as well. Yeah,
but I think that's there is. It's not a volunteer role, is it? Let's face it. I mean, the franchise fee. When people might see these things, they might think, oh, it's a bit like a community club. It's like starting a team, like a handball team or a football team or something like that. Yeah. It's not. You can earn money from it. You can earn a living from it. Yeah. Like you say there, Alistair.
They are, and a lot of them are making a decent living out of it, because I mean, some of the numbers the franchisees have been getting has been very impressive. Like Edinburgh's up to about 70 teams now. Yeah. We started in 2021, I think, something like that. Newcastle's now been going 14 months and already up to 32 teams. Salford's been going 4 months now. I think they're up to about 14 or 15. I've heard their latest numbers for the season. York's a much smaller place. That's been going a year and sort of 16 months. That's now up to about 14, 15 teams as well. Yeah. Possible more this season. So we know we've got a model that works. We can coach them to go out and find the players, and there's demand for it in these places. So
it's impressive with York as well, considering Leeds is just down the road, and there's 4 different nights that Leeds play. Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Thursday with various different teams. A lot of crossover, but still, it's very impressive, isn't it? Right, Alistair. We don't want this to go on for too long. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I give everybody the opportunity to sell their sport in a line, basically. So if you could sum up Tag Rugby in a line, why should someone give it a go this season? What would that be, do you think? I'm putting you on the spot here. I didn't prep you for this one, so I'm rambling to give you enough time to think of something. But why should someone come down, sign up today, and turn up on Thursday?
Well, firstly, it's a fun sport. So the sport is definitely fun, but it's a great way to meet people. So friendship is probably the number one thing, then fun. And then it's just an easy way to keep fit. You're not being flogged. You're not flogged at the gym, but you're in a team. You want to show up to help your team out each week, so you're going to have a run around. So you're committing to a routine as well. So, but yeah, we actually did survey the players last year, and it came out strongly that friendship was the number one benefit they were getting out of it. I think everyone had met. On average, it worked out like 13 friends from Tag. So it was friendship, fun, and a sort of easy way to keep fit is the third way.
So friendship, fun, fitness, and those 3 things are really the core of Tag Rugby, you'd say.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, it's very much, we like to think it's the communities we're creating. It's,
Fantastic. Right, well, thank you very much for having a chat to me. Hopefully it wasn't too daunting or anything like that. I think a lot of people have learned a lot. I didn't know all that information or all that history of Tag Rugby, and it's fantastic to hear that it's got a good, strong future, and the plan ahead of time is going to be really great as well. I cannot wait to see 40,000 people playing, because I'll probably be 39,100th or something like that best player in the country then. Right near the bottom. Anyway, it's been brilliant, Alistair. Hopefully we will speak to you or someone else soon about Tag Rugby. Maybe a franchisee would be a great perspective to sort of get their view on how Leeds is run, although I did try and chat to Bobby. He didn't want to come on the podcast. If anybody out there is a franchisee, by all means volunteer, get in touch with us, or tell Alistair you want to be on the podcast, and we'll get you on.
There's a few of our franchisees I think would be brilliant, be great to speak to. They've certainly developed.
I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it. Alistair, thank you very much. And right, it's all that's left to do on the episode is for me to seal it out. So over to me, I guess.
Yes.
I'm going to keep this outro relatively brief because I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I was trying to keep the interviews down to about 20 minutes. That one with Alistair ended up being 35 minutes, and I did the other day with John Denton ended up being 30 minutes. So I clearly either need to get a bit more streamlined with this, or I just need to accept that they're going to be slightly longer. Originally, I was actually going to put 3 different sports in each episode and keep the runtime down to a minimum. That has gone out the window somewhat. So I am still trying to figure out the format. I've gone from that sort of idea to what we're currently doing at the moment, which is 1 sport per week. But I feel like we don't really get back to the sports quick enough. So maybe there's a bonus episode that I can try and think of. Maybe score updates or something like that, where I don't have to have a guest come in, because that is where it gets a little bit harder. If I can figure out a way where I can just present the information in a fun and entertaining way, maybe there's bonus podcasts for sports that we are returning to, like Corfball that have weekly fixtures, or Tag Rugby and handball and all that sort of thing. I'll figure it out eventually. Listen, thank you very much for watching. Thank you to Alistair Davis. It was a fascinating talk with him, talking about everything from the inception of Tag Rugby in the UK, how he's grown it. I'm particularly interested in the franchise model. It's similar to an idea that I had with handball when I was at university. I didn't manage to get it off the ground. I'm really glad that he has with Tag Rugby. Fingers crossed other sports, other niche sports can maybe take into the same sort of effect, but they've seemed to have nailed it with the idea of training new people and the ethos and the community it brings in everywhere it goes. So it's absolutely fascinating. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching it. The only thing left to do is to thank yourselves. If you've watched or listened for this long, you might as well follow, you might as well subscribe, and then hopefully we can get more sports that you are interested in. And also, if there is any sports that you play as well, you may play Tag Rugby, and then you play another random sport, choke ball or something like that, let me know. introduce me to someone to talk to, because I would love to do more and more of these types of sports. The next couple of episodes, bit of a toss-up. I've got a few in the works. One of them might be speed golf, because I've just attended the British Speed Golf Championships, and not playing, filming. And also handball, obviously, is a big one for me. It's sort of a go-to if I'm struggling for something. I know I can always bash out a handball episode, but I'd love to get a bit more of a variation of the different sports, so we can start to build up a network and start to build up an audience. Follow along, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. A big thank you to you, and I will see you next week.